Chapter 58-87. You're really popular. Compared to Jian Ziyu's calm expression, Xiao Lianqiu's expression was much more obvious. Her face was full of disappointment. Didn't Jian Ziyu go to the Red Valley with that bitch Yan Qingcheng? There was something wrong with her escaped jade token. How could she not die? It must be Bei Yu who saved her. How hateful. She glared at Yun Chujiu fiercely. Her gaze was as if she wanted to cut Yun Chujiu into 1,000 pieces. At this moment, Jian Zhiyu said softly, "The four of you, please join us. Our strength is not bad. Even if we encounter a powerful guardian demonic beast, we can still fight. We can find more yin-yang lichen." Although she said this to Yun Chujiu and the other three, her eyes were fixed on Di Baiming. Her face showed a perfect shyness. Hei Xinjiu curled her lips. "Thank you for your kindness, but we are not interested." Hei Xinjiu emphasized the word kindness. Don't think that she did not know what the White Lotus was planning. It was nothing more than an opportunity to trick her and steal her gigolo. In her dreams. If she did not have so many people behind her, she would have sent her and Jian Qinmu to keep her company. Jian Zhiyu ignored Yun Chujiu and continued to stare at Di Baiming. It was obvious that he was waiting for his reply. Di Baiming said calmly, "I will listen to Qingcheng. I will do as she says." Jian Ziyu's expression froze. Xiao Lianqiu could not take it anymore. "Bei Yu, you have to think carefully. If you cannot obtain enough yin-yang lichens, you will lose the chance to compete in the 100-year competition. This is the chance that many people dream of. Are you going to give it up because of this stupid Yan Qingcheng?" Jian Zhiyu chimed in, "Yes, Bei Yu. The 100-year competition not only represents the glory of the academy, but if you are lucky, there will be great opportunities. You have to think it through." Hei Xinjiu giggled and said, "You don't have to worry about that. Because Brother Bai's greatest opportunity is to meet me." "Brother Bei Yu, don't you think so?" "Yes, meeting you is my greatest opportunity. It's a blessing given to me by the heavens." Di Baiming looked at Yun Chujiu and said word by word. Hei Xinjiu originally said all this to anger Xiao Lianqiu and Jian Zhiyu. She did not expect Di Baiming to respond to her in such a serious manner. Her thick-skinned face immediately turned red. Jian Zhiyu and Xiao Lianqiu were so angry that they were half dead. They originally wanted to sow discord between them, but now it had become an opportunity for them to show off their love. It was really hateful. Xiao Lianqiu was so angry that her eyes were red. "Bei Yu, you will regret it. You will lose the opportunity of the 100-year competition because of tea. You will regret it sooner or later." Although Jian Ziyu's reaction was not as intense as hers, her tone of regret could not be more obvious. "Bei Yu, since you have already decided, I can't say anything. If you regret it, come find us at any time." Di Baiming did not say anything. Hei Xinjiu waved her claws, "Goodbye." Xiao Lianqiu glared at her and left angrily. Jian Zhiyu nodded at Di Baiming and led the others to chase after him. Ding Wenru curled her lips, thinking, if these idiots knew that Qingcheng had found a lot of yin-yang lichens, would they die of anger? Hei Xinjiu said sourly, "Brother Bei Yu, you are really popular." Di Baiming could not help but laugh. He said casually, "In my eyes, you are the only woman in the world. The others are nothing but rubble in my eyes." Chapter 58-88 ended. Hei Xinjia's little heart immediately thumped non-stop. Oh my, this gigolo is getting more and more flirtatious. In order to hide her shyness, this guy raised his voice and said, "Well, let's hurry up and find the yin-yang lichen. Otherwise, we really won't be able to go to the 100-year competition." Di Baiming knew that she was embarrassed. He chuckled, making Hei Xinjia's little face even redder. Ding Wenru and Nangong Shi, who were hit by the dog food, looked at each other. Their hearts were filled with ripples. In the remaining 3 days, the four of them were still very successful. They had collected an astonishing number of yin-yang lichens. When Yun Chujiu wanted to distribute the yin-yang lichens, Ding Wenru said, "My cultivation is too low. Even if I go to the 100-year competition, I will be a burden to the academy. So Qingcheng, just give me a few. You don't have to give me so many. Yun Chuzhou disagreed. It's because your cultivation is low that you should go to the 100-year competition. If you cultivate step by step, when will you catch up with the others' cultivation? You heard it before. There may be opportunities in the 100-year competition. Maybe you will be lucky and your cultivation will soar. Ding Wenru was still hesitant. What you said makes sense, but PM afraid of dragging everyone down. Nan Gongshi mustered up his courage and said, don't worry. PLL protect you. Ding Wenru's face immediately turned red. Although she still looked like a bear, at this moment, she looked a little shy like a little girl. He Xinjiu laughed evilly. They began to distribute the yin-yang lichen. I'm the most fair and not greedy. Come, Brother Beiyu, Sister Ding, Nangong Shi, me, Brother Beiyu, Sister Ding, Nangong Shi, Nangong Shi, Nangong Shi, and me, Ding Wenru. Nangong Shi. What happened to being fair and not greedy? However, the two of them did not have any objections. If it were not for Yan Qingcheng's Xiaohei and her strange good luck, they would not have been able to gather so many yin-yang lichens. Moreover, if it were not for her and Beiyu, they might have already died in the Red Valley. When the trial ended, everyone was teleported out of the Six Directions Waterside Pavilion. President Gu and the others had already been waiting here for a long time. The Six Directions Waterside Pavilion was very dangerous, and they were very worried about the students' condition. After counting the number of people, they found that only a dozen students had died, and they couldn't help but feel very lucky. Actually, the reason why so few people had died was because of He Xinjiu. The demonic beasts in the Six Harmonies Waterside Pavilion sensed the aura of. If it weren't for the blind students who provoked them, they wouldn't have taken the initiative to attack. President Gu immediately ordered the relevant lecturers to start counting the number of yin-yang lichens, and the scene immediately became lively. Yun Chuzhou had previously instructed Ding Wenru and the others not to hand in the yin-yang lichens first, and to look at everyone's situation first. If the others had only collected a small amount, there was no need for them to hand in so many yin-yang lichens. Firstly, it was too eye-catching, and secondly, it would be a waste. Jian Zhuyu and Xiao Yanxiao did not know what Yun Chuzhou and the others were planning. Seeing that they had not handed in their mission, they immediately felt relieved. This time, Beiyu had lost the opportunity to participate in the 100-year competition. He would definitely vent his anger on Yan Qingcheng. Sooner or later, they would have to break up. Xiao Yanxiao arrogantly walked up to Yun Chuzhou. Yan Qingcheng, why haven't you handed in your mission yet? Could it be that you and Ding Wenru are dragging them down, causing Beiyu and Nangong Shi to be unable to enter the top 50? Chapter 5889, Top 4. Ding Wenru was just about to retort when He Xinjiu shot her a look. Then, she sighed and shook her head, remaining silent. Ding Wenru immediately understood He Xinjiu's plan and looked dejected. Xiao Yanxiao and Jian Zhuyu looked at each other. It seemed that they were right. Beiyu and the others definitely did not find a few lichens. They deserved. Xiao Yanxiao pouted and said, Yan Qingcheng, it's fine that you're a good-for-nothing, but now you've made Beiyu lose the qualification to participate in the 100-year grand competition. You're really shameless. If you still have self-awareness, don't bother Beiyu in the future. Jian Zhuyu sighed and said, the opportunity to participate in the 100-year grand competition is very rare. It's a pity for Beiyu and Nangong Shi this time. Ding Wenru looked at the two of them who were singing along and couldn't help but laugh in her heart. How proud they were now, they would be slapped in the face in a while. After a while, the students handed in their missions one after another. Xiao Yanxiao urged them with ill intentions, Yan Qingcheng, why aren't you guys handing in your missions? Now you know how embarrassing it is to collect so little. Who asked you guys not to join us before? I'm ranked in the top 20 and have firmly obtained the qualification to participate in the 100-year competition. Yun Chuzhou looked at her meaningfully and then called Ding Wenru and the others to hand in the mission. Soon, 4 names appeared on the bulletin board and replaced the original top 4. First place, Yan Qingqing second place, Bei Yu third place, Nan Gongshi fourth place, Ding Wenru. Everyone immediately exploded. Were they seeing things? Bei Yu and Nan Gongshi were fine, but Yan Qingqing was actually ranked first. Ding Wenru was ranked fourth. This was simply impossible. Not to mention the others, even President Gu rubbed his eyes. That Yan Qingqing not only entered the top 50, but she was also ranked first. How was this possible? However, after he went to the lecturer in charge to confirm it, he realized that it was actually true. Xiao Lianxiao and Jian Ziyu's expressions were very interesting. At first, they were in disbelief, then they were flustered and exasperated. Since this Yan Qingqing had collected so many yin-yang lichens, why didn't she mention it before? She was deliberately toying with them. It was really detestable. Xiao Lianxiao said loudly, there must be something wrong here. Bei Yu and Nan Gongshi must have given the yin-yang lichens they found to Yan Qingqing and Ding Wenru. The two of them are cheating. They used spirit stones to buy flags during the lower house assessment. Now, they are using their bodies to exchange for yin-yang lichens. How shameless. Everyone immediately burr. It must be so. Otherwise, how could the two of them have collected so many yin-yang lichens? Seeing this, Xiao Lianxiao could not help but feel relieved. Just as she was feeling proud, a chill ran down her neck. Which fucking eye did you see Ding Wenru and I use our bodies to exchange for the yin-yang lichens? Was it the left eye or the right eye? Since you're so blind, it's useless to keep it. How about I dig it out for you? It turned out that, without knowing when, Yun Chuzhou had already arrived behind Xiao Lianxiao and placed the dagger on her neck. Everyone was stunned by this unexpected turn of events. This Yan Qingqing's courage was too great. One had to know that President Gu and the other chancellors were all present. She actually dared to publicly threaten people with a dagger. Did she want to be expelled? President Gu immediately snorted, Yan Qingqing, stop. Yun Chuzhou sneered, President, Ding Wenru and I are the only two students of the prehistoric branch. We represent the face of the prehistoric branch. Right now, our face is being trampled on by this Xiao Lianxiao. If I let her go just like that, I won't have the face to see my master. Don't you agree? Chapter 5890 was easy to talk to when President Gu heard the word, master, his heart skipped a beat. He had actually forgotten about this matter. He had previously promised Yan Qingqing that as long as she obtained the qualifications for the 100-year grand competition, he would let her meet the two people at the back of the mountain. Heaven and earth, he had only casually found an excuse to make her give up. Who would have thought that not only did she enter the top 50, but she had also obtained the first place? It was really killing me. He wanted to hide this matter, but it was too late. He didn't want those two to know that there were two more useless students in their muddle-headed state. Xiao Lianxiao originally thought that once President Gu stopped her, Yun Chuzhou would let her go. Who would have thought that President Gu would actually be in a daze now? She looked at Vice President Xiao for help. Second uncle, save me. The 1,000-year-old corpse turtle Emperor Bug thought, save you? Save my ass. It would be better if you were dead. However, in order to maintain its image, it said to Yun Chuzhou with a cold face, Yan Qingqing, you are really bold and reckless. Even if Lianxiao spoke without restraint and slandered you, even if she really should be punished, you shouldn't use violence to solve the problem. Why don't you quickly let her go? Xiao Lianxiao smacked her lips. Why did it feel like her second uncle was not helping? Yun Chuzhou curled her lips and put away the dagger. She said darkly, if I hear your nonsense again, I will cut off your tongue. Xiao Lianxiao was angry and hateful. She reached out her hand to hit Yun Chuzhou, but she heard Director Xiaofu shout angrily, enough. You've been acting more and more unruly recently. Hurry up and apologize to Yan Qingqing. Xiao Lianxiao was so angry that she was dumbfounded. In the past, her second uncle would always stand on her side and speak up for her, but recently, why did he speak up for this bitch Yan Qingqing again and again? She wanted to refute, but when she saw Director Xiaofu's gloomy face, she could only grit her teeth and say to Yun Chujiu with red eyes, "I'm sorry." Yun Chujiu gave a brilliant smile. It's okay, it's okay. I've always been easy to talk to. In the future, we'll still be good classmates. Everyone. Easy to talk to. Who was the one who was shouting about digging out his eyes and cutting out his tongue just now? This face changing was even faster than flipping a book. Xiao Lianqiao suppressed her hatred. With reddened eyes, she bit her lips and retreated to the side. At this time, President Gu had recovered from his shock. He glanced at the crowd and said, according to the agreement, the top 50 students will be qualified to participate in the 100-year competition. Of course, considering the actual situation, if a student feels that it is not suitable to participate in the 100-year competition, he can come to me later to explain the situation and give up the qualification. The academy will give him some compensation. When President Gu said this, he looked at Yun Chujiu and Ding Wenru. His purpose was self-evident. Ding Wenru lowered her head uncomfortably, but He Xinjiu winked at President Gu with a smile. President Gu felt relieved. It seemed that Yan Qingqing and Ding Wenru would give up their qualification to participate in the 100-year grand competition, so that he would not have to be scolded by those two. However, he returned to his own courtyard and waited. He waited for 3 days, but Yun Chujiu and Ding Wenru still didn't show up. Instead, he received a surprise. President, something has happened. A guard rushed in to report. President Gu frowned. What happened? Why are you making a fuss? The guard said with a panicked expression, the 3 courtyards of the alchemy division have disappeared into thin air. Not only have those houses disappeared, even the flowers and trees on the ground have disappeared. Chapter 5891, The Courtyard That Disappeared into Thin Air. President Gu felt that he had most likely misheard. What did you say? Say it again. The 3 courtyards of the alchemy division all disappeared overnight, the guard repeated. President Gu slammed the table. Nonsense. How is this possible? Even if someone used a jade talisman to blow up those courtyards, there should still be ruins. President, everything I said is true. I saw it with my own eyes. If you don't believe me, you can go and take a look at the scene. At this moment, President Gu's shocked and angry voice came from the alchemy division's jade token. President, 3 courtyards have disappeared from our alchemy division. Please come and take a look. Only then did President Gu believe that the guards weren't exaggerating. He hurried to the alchemy division. At this moment, many lecturers and students had gathered at the scene of the incident. The chancellors and vice-chancellors of the 6 major divisions were all present. Their faces were filled with shock. When the crowd saw President Gu, they spontaneously made a path for him. President Gu walked to the front and took a look. He couldn't help but be stunned as well. He saw that there was nothing in the vast area in front of him. It was so clean. Not to mention the houses, there wasn't even a single weed. It was as if this place was originally an empty space and nothing had ever existed. However, there were clearly 3 courtyards of the alchemy division here. There were even many tall trees. How did it become like this overnight? President Gu looked at the 6 chancellors. What exactly is going on? Did you find anything? President, I checked just now. There is no sign of the use of the Jade Talisman Seal here, said President Zhao of the Talisman Seal Division. There is also no sign of the use of the Array Formation. What a ghost! Added President Sun of the Array Formation Division. President Wu of the Artifact Refining Division shook his head and said, it is not caused by a spiritual artifact, because there is no trace of the use of the spiritual artifact here. It's even more impossible that it was caused by a cultivator's spirit energy, because if it was damaged by spirit energy, the scene couldn't have been so clean. President Zhou of the Spirit Energy Department frowned and said. President Li of the Beast Taming Department spread out his hands. This is even more impossible that it was done by a demon beast. Let's not talk about the fact that such a large demon beast wouldn't be able to break in without being discovered. The main thing is that even if the demon beast could eat all the plants and trees, it wouldn't eat the house. President Gus' expression was cold. It was not spirit energy, not demon. Last night, no one heard any abnormal sounds. No matter how these 5 courtyards disappeared, they could not have gone without a sound, right? President Ren of the Alchemy faculty sighed. President, these 3 courtyards and some nearby courtyards are all student dormitories. Originally, there were people living there. However, these 2 days happened to be when the 7-leaf cedar grass matured. The students were arranged to go to the 3 Talents Waterside Pavilion to pick the 7-leaf cedar grass. At this moment, Jian Zhuyu walked out of the crowd and said, President, fellow chancellors, although no one in the alchemy division knows what happened, Yan Qingcheng and Ding Wenru might know something. President Gu and the 6 chancellors were stunned when they heard Jian Zhuyu's words. Only then did they realize that the 5 missing courtyards were close to the primeval division, but the primeval division was safe and sound. President Gu was about to send someone to bring Yun Chujiu and Ding Wenru over, but he heard someone yawn and say, President, although we are close, we didn't hear anything. But we were woken up by the noise this morning. Chapter 5892 was punished. The person who spoke was the sleepy Yun Chujiu. She continued, however, I do have a guess, but I don't dare to say it out loud. Everyone's gaze immediately fell on her. President Gu asked anxiously, what guess? Just say it. Yun Chujiu yawned again. Then let's make it clear in advance. If I say it, you can't punish me. President Gu urged impatiently, just say it. Yun Chujiu blinked her eyes. Alright, then PLL say it. As everyone knows, these courtyards belong to our prehistoric branch, but they were occupied by the alchemy branch. Now, this situation is obviously retribution. Everyone. The people from the alchemy branch nearly vomited blood. This Yan Qingcheng was indeed incapable of spitting out ivory from a dog's mouth. It was pure nonsense. The alchemy division's principal Ren's expression was very ugly. Nonsense. Yan Qingcheng, if you continue to mislead the crowd, be careful of the rules of the division. Yun Chujiu spread her hands innocently and said with grievance, see, I already said that I wouldn't say it, yet you want me to say it. If I say it, you will blame me again. It's really hard to be a good person. Besides, if we didn't suffer retribution, why did nothing happen to our primal division? Only your alchemy division suffered. Principal Ren subconsciously retorted, according to what you said, the Talisman Seal division should have suffered some losses too. Why is there nothing happening to the Talisman Seal division? Principal Zhao of the Talisman Seal division. He cursed in his heart. It's fine to say that it's your alchemy division's matter, but why is it related to our Talisman Seal division? Sick. At this moment, someone hurriedly squeezed into the crowd and said to Principal Zhao, Chancellor, this is bad. 2 of our Talisman division's courtyards have just disappeared into thin air. The first thought that flashed through Principal Zhao's mind was that Ren jinx. Everyone rushed to the Talisman division and found that the 2 courtyards near the prehistoric division had indeed become empty space, just like the alchemy division's situation. These 2 courtyards were also the students' dormitories, but everyone went to the alchemy division to watch the fun. When the accident happened, there was no one in the courtyard, but the handyman who was responsible for cleaning found out about it. This time, everyone's expression became a little fearful. Could it be that they had really found their retribution? If not, why did the alchemy division and talisman division suffer, but the prehistoric division in the middle was safe and sound? If it wasn't for Yun Chujiu and Ding Wenru being here all the time, some people would have suspected that the 2 of them were the ones who did this. President Gus' expression turned cold. If, at the very least, he would have returned the courtyard to the prehistoric division. However, this matter was clearly not that simple. The other party was able to make the courtyard disappear without a sound. If he wanted to harm someone, wouldn't it be as easy as flipping his hand? He then thought of the shadow guard who had been replaced. Although he had caught the imposter, he had not been able to get anything out of him. Could it be that these two things were done by the same force? Thinking of this, cold sweat broke out on President Gus' head. However, as the president of the academy, he naturally could not lose his composure. He calmed his emotions and said, "Everyone, go back and focus on your lessons. The academy will find out the clues about this matter. The results of the investigation will be announced soon." The students then dispersed, but they were all feeling uneasy. This matter was too strange, and they were really uneasy. Chapter 5893 Could it be Tao Tai? President Gu hurried to the back of the mountain. After using his identity jade token to open a barrier, 2 cave abodes appeared on the cliff that was originally no different from other places. He steadied his mind and said respectfully, "Seniors, this junior has something to report." Almost as soon as he finished speaking, he heard a vigorous roar coming from one of the cave abodes. "Didn't I tell you not to disturb our closed-door cultivation for no reason? It's not the time of the 100-year competition yet. What are you doing here?" As he spoke, the short elder walked out of his cave, and the tall elder walked out of another cave. President Gu smiled bitterly in his heart. If it was not a serious matter, did he think that he would be willing to be scolded? Of course, he did not dare to say this out loud. He said respectfully, "Seniors, something really strange happened in the academy. That's why I rashly came to disturb your seclusion." The short elder curled his lips. "You're making a fuss. What happened? Did the sky collapse or did the earth collapse?" President Gu. He told the whole story and even took out a shadow stone. He said, "The shadow stone recorded the situation at the scene. Please take a look." The expressions of the tall old man and the short old man changed. They both looked at the scene in the shadow stone. Seeing the empty ground, they looked at each other and thought of a possibility at the same time. Could it be Tao Tai? The short old man cried out in surprise. The tall old man said solemnly, "Wherever Tao Tai goes, nothing is left." It is indeed in line with Tao Tai's style of doing things. However, according to records, although Tao Tai ate everything, it liked to eat meat other than spirit stones. Why did it swallow several courtyards for no reason? Perhaps it is taking revenge on our 10 Directions Academy. After all, we have suppressed it for so many years, President Gu interrupted weakly. What do you know? If it wants to take revenge on our academy, wouldn't it just swallow you up? There is no need to swallow a few lousy courtyards, the short old man said snappily. President Gu was scolded so much that he shrunk his neck and shut his mouth, feeling wronged. The tall old man said in a low voice, "This matter might not be Tao Tai's doing. Let's go and take a look at the seal first." After a round of inspection, the two found that although the seal was loosened, it was not broken. It seemed that they had guessed wrong. This matter was not Tao Tai's doing. Then, what happened to those courtyards? How did they disappear? The tall old man thought for a while and said, "Maybe there was a formation under those courtyards. Someone accidentally triggered it. Those courtyards belong to our prehistoric branch. We didn't find anything unusual before. Since the academy was able to seal Tao Tai back then, it's natural that they have a deep heritage. It's not surprising that we don't know some things," the tall elder said. Although the short elder still had doubts, he nodded. Then, he remembered something and said, Little Gu, these courtyards are obviously the courtyards of the prehistoric branch. Why did you say something about alchemy branch and talisman branch?" President Gus' head buzzed. He had blurted out in a moment of panic. What should he do? He wanted to lie, but thinking about the consequences of being exposed, he might as well tell the truth. After all, this pot belonged to the previous president and had nothing to do with him. Chapter 5894, Beating a Pig. Thus, President Gu said dryly, "Seniors, the Primal Chaos branch has been unable to recruit students, so the courtyard has been abandoned." The previous president lent some of the Primal Chaos branch's territory to the Alchemy branch and the Talisman Seal branch for the time being. This is also a reasonable use of the Academy's resources. The short elder's expression was not very good. Just as he was about to scold them, the tall elder sighed and said, "Forget it, forget it. It has been a few hundred years, and we have yet to recruit any students. Anyway, we have nothing to do, so there's no harm in letting the other branches borrow it." The short old man snorted coldly. "It's too easy for them. When we recruit students, we will definitely make them return the principal and interest back." President Gu silently swallowed his saliva. This person and that Yan Qingqing really had the same lineage. This bandit's thoughts were exactly the same. Thinking of Yan Qingqing, President Gu felt his head ache even more. Should he tell these two that the Primeval Academy had already recruited 2 students? That Yan Qingqing was clearly determined to go to the 100-year grand competition. When the time came, she would definitely be exposed. Why not confess and be lenient? Just as President Gu was about to tell them everything, he heard the short elder say, "Sooner or later, we will recruit talented students. At that time, we will make those branches feel inferior." Humph. Our prehistoric branch has always preferred the lack to the lack. It doesn't matter even if we wait for a few hundred years. President Gu silently swallowed the words that he wanted to say. Because he felt that Yan Qingqing and Ding Wenru could not be associated with being talented. If he said it out loud, he would definitely be scolded. It was better to think of a way to prevent them from participating in the 100-year grand competition. Even if he wanted them to participate, he had to make them give up on the idea of meeting these two. On the other side, one of the only 2 students of the primeval institution, He Xinjiu, was beating a pig. "You dumbass. You put the disaster on the ground and didn't provoke the disaster in the sky. Do you want to die? Am I hungry or thirsty? How dare you shamelessly swallow my courtyard? Eat, eat, eat. You only know how to eat after 1 day. Why don't you go to heaven?" The red piglet lay on the ground, feeling wronged. It allowed Yun Chuzhou to hit it with a rolling pin, not daring to retaliate. This fellow was very proud in his heart. He deserved it. It would be better if he angered you to death. It was already good enough that it did not swallow you. Last night, after she fed De Hua a few demon beast carcasses, it was still clamoring for food. He Xinjiu ignored it, thinking that it would dissipate in a moment. Who would have thought that she would hear the clamor of the alchemy division next door in the morning that 3 courtyards had disappeared into thin air? She immediately thought of a possibility. "De Hua, did you do it?" "Master, this is called killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I can eat my fill and help you take revenge," De Hua said smugly. Yun Chuzhou was so angry that she almost vomited blood. This idiot was simply courting death by playing tricks. She did not have the time to teach it a lesson and tried to think of a way to remedy it. In the end, she really had no choice but to let it secretly swallow the 2 courtyards of the Talisman Seal division. In this way, she could use the gimmick of retribution to divert her attention. Moreover, the 2 courtyards were too close to her, so it was not convenient for her to tear them down. After beating De Hua up a few times, Yun Chuzhou finally calmed down slightly and said coldly, "I don't care what you are planning. Now you and I are in the same boat. If something happens to me, you can forget about materializing in your life." Chapter 5895, Don't participate in the 100 Years Grand Competition anymore. De Hua said pitifully, "I don't have any ideas. I'm just too hungry. Moreover, those bricks and tiles aren't delicious. I swallowed them reluctantly." Yun Chuzhou narrowed her eyes. "Reluctantly? Aren't you taking revenge on me?" De Hua's small eyes flashed. "Of course not. You're my master now. The past is written off. Why would I take revenge on you?" Yun Chuzhou looked at it deeply. "It better not be. Otherwise, I will make you a single pig for the rest of your life. De Hua could not help but tremble. In his heart, he hated this wretched girl. She was too vicious. Well, see. Yun Chuzhou kicked De Hua away. She held her chin and pondered on the various possibilities and countermeasures for the development of the matter. Just as she was thinking about it, President Gu summoned her over. This guy suddenly felt uneasy. Could it be that President Gu had already guessed what happened to Tao Tai? No, even if he had guessed that it was Tao Tai's doing, he would not have guessed that she had contracted Tao Tai. After thinking about it, this guy felt a little more at ease. He followed the guards to President Gus' study. President Gus' expression did not look too good. However, it was also true that he was troubled by one thing after another. It would be strange if he was in a good mood. Yan Qingcheng, tell me the truth. During the trial of the 6 Harmonies Waterside Pavilion, how did you collect so many yin-yang lichens? Yun Chuzhou heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. She thought that it was because of the disappearance of the courtyard. As long as it was not about this matter, it would be fine. She blinked her eyes. I'm so lucky. The yin-yang lichens that other people have encountered are all one flower after another. What I have encountered are all piles and piles of them. Other people can't find them no matter how hard they search. I can just dig a hole and find a few of them. Don't you think it's infuriating? President Gu looked at her smug look and slammed the table angrily. Tell the truth. Yun Chuzhou spread her hands innocently. President, what I said is true. If I lie, I will be struck to death by lightning. President Gu did not believe it at first, but seeing Yun Chuzhou make such a solemn vow, he believed her a little. He was puzzled. Was it really good luck? Then he thought about how Yun Chuzhou caught a corpse when she was fishing. Maybe she was really lucky. Thinking of this, he softened his tone. I see. It seems that you are really blessed. However, the result of the 100-year competition is related to the honor of the Academy, and it is also quite dangerous. You and Ding Wenru should not participate. Don't worry, the Academy will give you some material compensation and won't mistreat you. President Gu knew th. As long as he could convince her, Ding Wenru would be easy to deal with. Yun Chuzhou bared her little white teeth. President, what you said makes sense. I'll listen to you. President Gu thought that he would have to spend some time to convince her, but he did not expect Yun Chuzhou to agree so readily. Immediately, a smile appeared on his face. He was about to speak, but he heard Yun Chuzhou continue, originally, I didn't want to participate in the 100-year competition. I just wanted to meet my 2 amiable and respectable masters. You don't have to give us any material rewards. Just let us go and meet our masters. President Gu almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was beating around the bush just to stop her from meeting those 2, all right? If he let her go and meet them, why did he have to do such a thing? President Gu coughed dryly. To tell you the truth, the 2 seniors have been in closed-door cultivation and will not participate in the 100-year competition. If you want to meet them, you can find another opportunity in the future. Yun Chuzhou looked at President Gu. President Gu, do you know that if you lie, you will be struck by lightning? Chapter 58-96 Agreed Hong Long. A bolt of purple lightning struck the study room. Fortunately, the study room was still relatively sturdy. Even though the window lattice had been struck so loudly, it didn't pose much of a problem. However, President Gu was greatly frightened and immediately stood up. He hurriedly walked out of the room and saw that there were no clouds in the sky. It could be seen that the heavenly lightning had suddenly struck. Could it be that it was really because he had lied just now? It shouldn't be. He had lied a lot in the past. Why was he struck today? Could it be because he had lied too much? Just as President Gu was thinking, Yun Chuzhou's voice came from behind him. I was just casually saying. There really was a heavenly thunder. President, could it be that you were lying to me just now? President Gu glared at her and returned to the study room. President, PM puzzled. Why don't you want me to meet my master and the others? The two of them will definitely praise you when they see a good disciple like me, who is hard to find even with a lantern in hand. President Gu was also quite frightened by the heavenly lightning, so he didn't beat around the bush and said, since you've said so much, then I'll tell you the truth. You and Ding Wenru entered the primal institution by accident. With your talent, you won't be able to catch their eyes. Once they find out that the primal institution has accepted students like you, they will be furious. At that time, you and Ding Wenru might be expelled directly. PM doing this for your own good. So, don't mention this matter again in the future. You don't have to go to the 100-year competition anymore. You should focus on your cultivation. Yun Chujiu sneered in her heart. For their own good? Perhaps she was afraid of being implicated? She blinked her eyes. Principle, as the saying goes, man makes things happen. Who can say for sure what will happen in the future? Furthermore, even if you hide this matter, it's hard to guarantee that the day will come when you will be exposed. Which do you think is the greater crime, deception or negligence? Which one will make the two of them angrier? President Gu, I also know that you are in a difficult position, and I know that you are doing this for my own good. How about this, I won't make things difficult for you. If I am able to enter the top 10 of the overall score in the 100-year grand competition, you can introduce me to my master and the others. If I am unable to do so, I will never mention this matter again. What do you think? President Gu pondered for a long time. This little girl was very difficult to deal with. If he did not agree to her, she might cause some trouble again. Moreover, based on her cultivation, it was impossible for her to enter the top 10 of. Even if it were to rain red rain, she would really be in the top 10. With this result, even if the two of them weren't satisfied, they wouldn't be too angry. After weighing the pros and cons, President Gu nodded. Alright, I agree to it. However, this matter cannot be mentioned to anyone else. Otherwise, HMPH. Yun Chujiu immediately agreed and cursed in her heart. Little Gu, just you wait. After saying this, President Gu changed the topic. You really didn't notice anything unusual about the alchemy division last night? No, if it wasn't for the commotion at the alchemy division this morning, I wouldn't have woken up so early. President Gu, I think they must have found their retribution. TSK, it's not so easy to take advantage of our primeval faculty. Seeing that she was getting more and more unreasonable, President Gu waved his hand repeatedly. Alright, you can go back now. Prepare for the 100-year competition well and don't embarrass our 10 Directions Academy. Chapter 5897, Grievance. After Yun Chujiu left, President Gu kept rubbing his temples. He felt a headache coming on. If the Divine Enlightenment Academy saw that the 10 Directions Academy had sent 2 trash to participate in the 100-year competition, they would definitely laugh their heads off. They had wasted 2 spots for nothing, yet they couldn't do anything to them. It was really, grievance. He could have dealt with the 2 students with lightning-fast methods, but at the very least, Yan Qingqing had discovered the shadow guards who had swapped out their spots and had rendered meritorious service. He could not bear to really deal with her ruthlessly. Moreover, the 2 people at the back of the mountain were grumpy. If one day they found out about this matter, it was hard to guarantee that they would blame him for their spasms. Therefore, he could only take one step at a time. Putting this matter aside, was the disappearance of the courtyard really due to the array formation? It was not necessarily so. President Gu felt that things had not been going well recently. It seemed that the upper house had not stopped since Yan Qingqing entered the school. It was really troublesome. On the other side, He Xinjiu left the study and took a deep breath. It seemed that the disturbance caused by De Hua had temporarily subsided. 2 days later, the academy posted an announcement regarding the disappearance of the courtyards. The gist of the announcement was that after careful inspection, it was found that there was a tactical array under the 5 missing courtyards. After the tactical array was accidentally triggered, the 5 courtyards disappeared. In fact, They did not disappear. They were just transported to a secret realm of the academy and were not damaged. After checking, there was nothing unusual in the other places of the academy. Everyone could rest assured. In order to verify these words, some of the things in the missing courtyard were also displayed. The students were skeptical. Didn't Dean Sun of the Array Division say that there were no traces of the array? Why was there another one now? However, if it was an ancient array, it was not surprising that Dean Sun did not notice it at the beginning. In addition, the items on display had been verified by the students who had stayed in the academy previously, so the remaining suspicions of the crowd had dissipated. However, no one dared to step into the empty space left by the Alchemy Division and the Talisman Division. It would not be good if they were accidentally transported to other places. Although Ding Wenru had not personally seen De Hua swallow those courtyards, she had more or less guessed it. She asked in puzzlement, "Qingcheng, where did you say the items on display came from?" "Yun Chu. You can find similar things easily. But, those students have admitted it themselves. If it's not their things, how could they not question it?" Ding Wenru was still very puzzled. There are so many capable people in the academy. It's very easy to do this. For example, the illusion array and the pills can naturally make those students believe the lies that they weave, Yun Chujiu said lightly. Ding Wenru was stunned at first and then said worriedly, "Qingcheng, President Gu and the others obviously don't want us to participate in the 100-year competition. We're going against them like this. They won't use these methods on us, right?" Yun Chujiu glanced at her and said faintly, "Not those idiots. What can these methods do to me?" Ding Wenru, in the blink of an eye, it was the day of the 100-year competition. The 100-year competition was a grand event that only happened once every 100 years, so President Gu personally led the team. Director Ren of the Alchemy Division, Director Zhao of the Talisman Division, and Director Li of the Beast Master Division were accompanying them. The other 3 chancellors stayed in the academy to keep watch, but they also sent their vice-chancellors. Vice-Chancellor Xiao was also among them. Chapter 5898, City of Miracles on the Way, President Gu specially mobilized. All of you are the best of the academy, the elite of the academy. Your results represent the academy's honor and disgrace. So I hope you will do your best this time to add glory to the academy. The students suddenly became excited and expressed their determination to bring glory to the academy. Of course, many people also cast a disdainful look at Yun Chujiu and Ding Wenru. Others were outstanding and elite, but these two were trash. They were even adding glory to the academy. It was already good enough that these two did not make things dark for the academy and did not drag them down. No one knew what President Gu was thinking. He actually allowed these two trash to participate in the 100-year competition together. Was this not a joke? Yun Chujiu didn't care about the gazes of these people at all, and her expression didn't change at all. Although Ding Wenru was a little uncomfortable, she was still a thick-skinned person, so she didn't have much of a reaction. When the crowd saw that the two of them were like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water, they became even more disdainful. However, they were only limited to verbal attacks, so they didn't dare to do anything. 10 days later, the crowd arrived at Miracle City, where the 100-year competition was taking place. Although the Union of 10,000 Cities controlled many cities, there were also a few cities that did not join the Union of 10,000 Cities. Miracle City was one of them. Miracle City was backed by the 10 Directions Academy and the Divine Enlightenment Academy, so the Union of 10,000 Cities could not forcefully enter their sphere of influence. Therefore, in Miracle City, the various forces were not afraid of any forces doing anything. The influence of the 10 Directions Academy and the Divine Enlightenment Academy was huge. Although it was a competition between the two academies, it still attracted a lot of people. The Divine Devil Hall, the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Hall, the Iron Blood Alliance, and the Alliance of 10,000 Cities also sent people of high status. Just as the group of people from the 10 Directions Academy arrived outside Miracle City, City Lord Murong of Miracle City was already waiting with his subordinates. City Lord Murong knew very well that Miracle City was where it was today because it had the support of the 10 Directions Academy and the Divine Inspiration Academy. Naturally, he did not dare to neglect them. After a round of small talk, the group followed City Lord Murong into Miracle City. Once they entered Miracle City, the first impression they gave off was that it was bustling. The streets were bustling with people, and the shops were also packed with people. There were also many small shops and vendors on the street, trying their best to attract customers. Yun Chujio had always been a person who liked to join in the fun. Seeing such a scene, she was so happy that her eyelashes were blooming. If it were not for the fact that President Gu did not say anything, this fellow would have already gone to the roadside to have a meal. After City Lord Murong had arranged the accommodation for the people from the 10 Directions Academy. Then, he cupped his fists and said, "President Gu, it just so happens that the people from the Divine Enlightenment Academy also arrived in Miracle City earlier. I will be the host tonight to welcome both of you." After President Gu politely agreed, City Lord Murong left. President Gu gave them some advice and did not detain them. He told them to wander around the city freely, but they were not allowed to cause any trouble. Upon hearing this, He Xinjiu immediately dragged Ding Wenru and ran away in high spirits. A certain respected figure who had been ignored immediately looked a little unhappy. He glanced at Nangong Shi, who was also a little disappointed, and said coldly, "In the future, take care of your people." Nangong Shi, Ding Wenru had clearly been dragged away by Yan Qingcheng, all right? If you want to take care of her, you should be the one taking care of Yan Qingcheng. However, he did not dare to say anything and only silently nodded his head. However, when he thought about how Bei Yu had said that Ding Wenru was his person, he felt an inexplicable sweetness in his heart. Chapter 58-99, Trash and Ugly. He Xinjiu was like a bird out of its cage. She had long forgotten about a certain someone. She was strictly controlled in the 10 Directions Academy and could not go anywhere, let alone go out and eat happily. There was no reason for her to be unhappy. Ding Wenru was also a foodie. The two of them hit it off and were so happy that they were about to float. They bought and ate along the way. Yun Chujia's eyes could not help but light up when she saw the shop in front. "Sister Ding, let's go. Let's go to the bookstore in front for a walk," He Xinjiu said impatiently. Ding Wenru often saw He Xinjiu looking at the shy storybook, and a rare blush appeared on her face. "Qingcheng, I think. Let's not go." He Xinjiu was not willing to listen. She dragged Ding Wenru into the bookstore. This guy was picky and bought a lot of books. The shopkeeper was very attentive when he saw such a big customer. When he paid the bill, not only did he wipe the change, but he also gave Yun Chujio a book. After Yun Chujio and Ding Wenru left, a waiter came to the shopkeeper's side and said curiously, "Shopkeeper, aren't those two the famous trash twins from the Academy of 10 Directions? Why are you treating them so well?" The shopkeeper glared at the waiter. "I don't care if they are trash twins. As long as they enter this shop, they will be our customers. If you offend the customers in the future, you will be punished." The waiter shrunk his neck. "Shopkeeper, I'm just talking to you behind your back. When I served them before, I always smiled apologetically. I didn't expect those two trash to have such a strong taste in books." He Xinjiu didn't know that she and Ding Wenru had become the talk of others. She was in a good mood now. The two of them found a restaurant. Since the private room on the second floor was full, they had to find an empty table on the first floor and sit down. While waiting for the dishes to be served, Yun Chujio remembered the book that the manager had given her. She took it out and glanced at it. There were 3 big words written on it, Atlas of Heroes. Ding Wenru came over and said, "This thing is probably similar to the Atlas of the Chosen Ones of our academy. It's probably an introduction to the students participating in the 100-year grand competition this time." Yun Chujio opened it and found that it was true. This booklet was divided into 2 sides. One side was an introduction to the students of the 10 Directions Academy, and the other side was an introduction to the students of the Divine Enlightenment Academy. The first page of the 10 Directions Academy was the Northern U. It was full of praise and was even titled as the Young Master of the Northern U. Next were some of the outstanding figures of the 10 Directions Academy. Nangong Shi, Jiang Shuangli, Bai Yuechen, Jian Zhuyu, and the others were all listed. Ding Wenru said in puzzlement, "Qingcheng, why don't you see our names? Go back and look." At the end of the page, they finally saw their names. The description on it said, Yan Qingcheng, first level of the divine summoning, fire spiritual root, spiritual beast as a red claw. Ding Wenru, 8th level of the divine summoning realm, fire spirit root, and a spirit beast with a spirit fire leopard. The two of them were not very talented, and their looks were ugly. They had obtained the qualifications to participate in the half-year grand competition by some shady means, so they were called trash and ugly. He Xinjiu and Ding Wenru were so angry that they almost choked. Ding Wenru was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Who the hell wrote this? It was simply nonsense. Yun Chujiu gritted her teeth. This is too much. PM's so angry. Other people write on a single piece of paper, but here, they actually wrote it together. How stingy. Ding Wenru, your focus has gone off the mark, alright? Chapter 5900 meets Lan Luochen again. Ding Wenru cursed a few times and then said, Qingcheng, the owner of the bookstore said that this book has just started selling, so there aren't many people who bought it. If there are too many people who buy it, I'm afraid they will point fingers at us. Yun Chujiu said indifferently, we can say whatever we want. It's not like they said that we would lose a piece of meat. Besides, facts speak louder than words. When we shine in the competition, the booklet will naturally be a slap in the face. Ding Wenru said with a wry smile, Qingcheng, to be honest, I'm really not confident. Our cultivation level is so low. It's already good enough if we don't embarrass ourselves, let alone shine. Yun Chujiu was about to say something when a group of people walked in from the door. He Xinjiu saw one of them and immediately lowered her head. She lowered her voice and said, Don't talk to me. When the food is served, let's pack it up and leave. Ding Wenru was puzzled and looked at the people who had just come in. They were both men and women, and they were all wearing the clothes of the Divine Enlightenment Academy. Each of them had extraordinary looks, especially one of the men who was so handsome that people couldn't take their eyes off him. However, there was a faint gloomy look between the brows of that man, which made people feel apprehensive. Ding Wenru was puzzled. Could it be that Qingcheng knew these people? Moreover, they had a grudge. Otherwise, why would she avoid them? Although she was curious, she tactfully did not ask. She picked up the book from before and compared it. On the first page, she saw the portrait of that gloomy man. Lan Luochen, 7th level of the spirit summoning realm, water spiritual root, spiritual beast as Qilin. He was extremely talented and his cultivation speed was astonishing. As soon as he entered the academy, he directly entered the upper house of the Divine Enlightenment Academy. In a short period of time, he became the outstanding figure of the upper house and was known as Young Master Luochen. Yun Chujiu also caught a glimpse of what was written on it and cursed in her heart. Damn it, bad luck, really bad luck. If she had known that she would encounter blue dregs here, she would not have come here to eat. Although she had taken a disguise pill, she could not guarantee that Lan Luochen would not recognize her. The thought of Lan Luochen made He Xinjia's head hurt. This Lan Luochen was a typical psychopath. She did not want to have any relationship with him. Fortunately, the dishes ordered by Yun Chujiu were served in a short while. Yun Chujiu randomly put the dishes into her storage ring. She gave Ding Wenru a look and the two of them got up to leave. When the two of them TSK, it's really you two. The reputation of the trash of the 10 Directions Academy was well deserved. Not only were they ugly, but their cultivation levels were also low. Tell us, what kind of dirty tricks did you use to get the qualification to participate in the 100-year grand competition? Yun Chuzhou was afraid of arousing Lan Luchen's suspicion, so she did not intend to pay attention to the man's provocation and continued to walk forward. Unexpectedly, the man with a croaky voice stood up and stopped the two of them. Are you deaf or mute? Didn't you hear me calling you? Or is it that the 10 Directions Academy is afraid of the Divine Enlightenment Academy and doesn't even dare to speak? The man said arrogantly. Ding Wenru knew that Yun Chuzhou did not want to expose herself, so she said, get out of the way. We still have things to do. Well, talk about it when there's a big competition. The male duck's voice curled his lips. TSK, you must be Ding Wenru, right? As expected, ugly people are always causing trouble. You're as strong as a tiger and as thick as a bear, but you actually got together with Nangong Shi. You're really capable. Chapter 59:01 Competition. Ding Wenru was so angry that her face turned livid. You should speak with more respect, or else what? You piece of trash, do you still want to fight? TSK, if you really dare to fight, I will make your 10 Directions Academy's participation quota become 48. The male duck's voice said with a strange laugh. In his opinion, it was a good opportunity for him to make a name for himself by easily taking care of Yun Chuzhou and Ding Wenru. People liked to pick the soft persimmon. The others in the restaurant started to make noise, pointing at Yun Chuzhou and Ding Wenru. Yun Chuzhou naturally wouldn't put a clown like the male duck voice in her eyes. If she didn't care about Lan Luochen, this guy would have long let the male duck voice know how powerful he was. She shook her head at Ding Wenru. Ding Wenru suppressed her anger and said, get out of the way. Otherwise, if this matter is blown up, it won't be good for either of us. The man with the croaky voice had made up his mind to sensationalize the crowd. How could he stop? He put on a fake smile and said, if you admit publicly that the 10 Directions Academy is inferior to the Divine Enlightenment Academy, I will let you go. If not, let's have a contest. The students of the Divine Enlightenment Academy behind the man with the croaky voice all looked like they were watching a good show. No one said anything to stop them. Lan Luochen, on the other hand, had his back to them. He was flipping through the booklet in his hand, as if he did not care about what was happening here. Ding Wenru had seen the introduction of the croaking voice in the booklet. Guan Zijie was at the 5th level of the Divine Enlightenment realm and had a wood spiritual root. His cultivation level was far higher than hers. If they fought, there was no chance of winning. At this moment, Yun Chuzhou gave her a look. She actually wanted her to agree to Guan Zijie's provocation. Although Ding Wenru was uncertain, she had always followed Yun Chuzhou's lead. She immediately gritted her teeth and said, okay, let's have a competition. Let's go outside. Guan Zijie did not expect that Ding Wenru would actually dare to agree. However, since she was asking for it, he would grant her her wish. Therefore, he said arrogantly, okay, today I will let everyone see how useless and unbearable the students of the 10 Directions Academy are. Ding Wenru bit her lips and did not say anything. She was thinking about what she could use. She liked refining artifacts and had also refined a lot of spiritual artifacts recently. Although the quality was average, it was superior in quantity. Some of them had been improved according to her idea. If she used all these spiritual artifacts, she might have a. Although the quality was very low, they were all supergrade jade talisman seals, which could help her. Ding Wenru thought for a while and had already arrived outside the restaurant. Some busybodies had already cleared the street in front of the restaurant and shouted, come and see. Come and see. The students of the 10 Directions Academy and the Divine Enlightenment Academy are going to fight. The 100-year grand competition had been pre-rehearsed. Let's wait and see who will win and who will lose. Soon, a lot of people gathered. Since the bookshelves in the bookstore had already started to sell, many people had a preliminary understanding of Guan Zijie and Ding Wenru. Almost everyone thought that Ding Wenru was asking for humiliation. Wasn't it obvious that she was going to be slapped by Guan Zijie? Jian Zhuyu, Shao Lianqiao, and the others were also in the crowd. Although Shao Lianqiao and Jian Zhuyu weren't on good terms, the two of them had the same goal now, so they often got together. Shao Lianqiao gloated and said, Ding Wenru will definitely lose. She has embarrassed herself in front of so many people. She will definitely be punished. She might even be disqualified from participating in the competition. Chapter 5902 Persuasion. Lian Qiao, let's go and persuade her. Jian Ziyu's eyes flashed as she said. Are you crazy? I can't wait for the two of them to be unlucky. Why should I persuade her? It would be better if she was beaten to death. Shao Lianqiao snorted. Jian Zhuyu chuckled and said, after all, this concerns the reputation of the 10 Directions Academy. If the people in the academy knew that we were present but did not persuade them, it would be inevitable that they would have some complaints. Moreover, do you think that even if we go up and persuade them, we can really stop this fight? Shao Lianqiao was stunned for a moment. She secretly cursed this bitch in her heart that she was really good at putting on a show. No wonder her reputation was so much better than hers. Jian Zhuyu saw that she did not say anything and directly walked out of the crowd. She said softly, this student from the Divine Enlightenment Academy, I am Jian Zhuyu from the 10 Directions Academy. The person next to me is Shao Lianqiao. Even if Jian Zhuyu didn't introduce herself, the people from the Divine Enlightenment Academy recognized her and Shao Lianqiao. After all, everyone knew the name of the 4 fairies of Drifting Cloud and Zhuyu. Guan Zijie changed his previous arrogance and said with a bit of flattery, so it's Fairy Zivu and Fairy Lianeo. I've long heard of your names. Todav. I finally saw your real faces. You are indeed amazing. The other people from the Divine Enlightenment Academy also came over to greet them. It was true that they were opponents in the 100-year competition, but in the future, after graduation, they would have to interact with each other. Moreover, Jian Zhuyu and Shao Lianqiao's family backgrounds were not ordinary, it was better to be on good terms with them than to offend them. Only Lan Luochen looked indifferent and did not speak. Jian Zhuyu and Shao Lianqiao were shocked by his appearance. They had not bought the Atlas of Heroes, so they did not know about Lan Luchen's information. They could not help but feel puzzled. Since when did the Divine Enlightenment Academy have such a person? They had never heard of such a person in all the big families. Also, why did his appearance look familiar? He looked 60 to 70% similar to Bai Yuechen. Could it be? They had heard that the Bai family had found a young Master Biao. Could it be that he was the young Master Biao of the Bai family who came from the lower continent? Jian Zhuyu came back to her senses and said to Guan Zijie with a smile, I wonder if Yan Qingcheng and Ding Wenru of the academy have offended you. Peace is the most important thing for everyone. It's better if we don't do anything. Guan Zijie said with a smile, logically speaking, if Fairy Zhuyu came out to plead for us, If I let them go so easily, the Divine Enlightenment Academy would lose face. How about this, if they can apologize to us in public, then we can forget about today's matter. Trash and ugly. Shao Lianqiao burst out laughing and gloated at Yun Chuzhou. Jian Zhuyu was also gloating in her heart, but she was much more shrewd than Shao Lianqiao. She frowned slightly. Yan Qingcheng, Ding Wenru, President Gu repeatedly warned us not to cause trouble. Why are you deliberately provoking the students of the Divine Enlightenment Academy? The competition is coming, so don't stir up trouble. Hurry up and apologize to the students of the Divine Enlightenment Academy. Lian Qiao and I will help to make peace. If the big issue is resolved, the small issue will be resolved, and this matter will be put behind us. When the onlookers saw Jian Ziyu's actions, they all praised, see. Fairy Zhuyu is indeed like the rumors. She has a pure heart and is reasonable. The gap between this person and others is really big. Those two trash are from the Academy of 10 Directions. They can't be compared to Fairy Zhuyu and Fairy Lianqiao. Chapter 5903. Ding Wenru was very angry. She said coldly, I didn't do anything wrong. What right do I have to apologize to them? They were the ones who started the trouble. What wrong did we do? Jian Zhuyu sighed. Ding Wenru, I know that you and Yan Qingqing have always been arrogant. But this is not the 10 Directions Academy. You'd better apologize to them quickly. Otherwise, I can't protect you. When the crowd heard that, they immediately labeled Yun Chuzhou and Ding Wenru as arrogant and despotic and ungrateful. Ding Wenru was livid with anger, but she was not as eloquent as Yun Chuzhou. For a moment, she did not know how to refute. She was puzzled. If it was in the past, Qingqing would have come out to kill this Jian Zhuyu. Why didn't she say anything today? It seemed that she was really afraid of one of them. Just as Ding Wenru was thinking, she saw Yun Chuzhou smiling at Jian Zhuyu. Jian Zhuyu, since you care so much about the big picture and care so much for your classmates, I'll leave these people to you. Just apologize on our behalf. Sister Ding, let's go. After Yun Chuzhou said that, she dragged Ding Wenru into the crowd and ran away. Jian Zhuyu. Guan Zieljie. The others. There was actually such an ostentatious operation. Wasn't this blame thrown too smoothly? Wasn't this skin too thick? A strange light flashed in Lan Luchen's eyes. Bei Yu? Yan Qingqing? Could it be the two people he had guessed? However, her looks were secondary. The main thing was that this spiritual root and spiritual beast did not match. Was it really her? Xiao Lianxiao gloated at Jian Ziyu's misfortune. She deserved it. She deserved it. Weren't you willing to pretend to have a good impression of her? Let's see how you'll end up this time. Jian Zhuyu hated Yun Chuzhou so much that she gnashed her teeth. However, at this point, she could only gnash her teeth and say, fellow students, I'm really sorry. Yan Qingqing and Ding Wenru usually do whatever they want. I can't do anything about them. How about this, I'll apologize to you guys on their behalf. Let's forget about this matter. It wouldn't be good if this matter was brought to the attention of the teachers. Fairy Zhuyu, you're too polite. Since you're helping them, let's forget about this matter. Guan Zijie had originally wanted to make a name for himself by bullying Ding Wenru and Yun Chuzhou. Now that he had taken this opportunity to get to know Jian Zhuyu and Xiao Lianxiao, he naturally wanted to use this opportunity to get down from his perch. After a dispute ended, the onlookers dispersed. Jian Zhuyu exchanged a few more pleasantries with Guan Zijie and the others before they left. Xiao Lianxiao said sarcastically, Jian Zhuyu, you deserve it. I told you to pretend to be a good person, B. She snorted coldly, don't forget, there's a welcoming banquet tonight. Xiao Lianxiao instantly understood what Jian Zhuyu meant. During the welcoming banquet tonight, Guan Zijie and the others would definitely find trouble with Yan Qingqing and Ding Wenru. There would be a good show to watch. On the other side, Yun Chuzhou dragged Ding Wenru out of the crowd and ran to another street to continue eating. Qingqing, which one of them are you afraid of? It can't be that Lan Luochen, right? I think all of you are from the heavy cloud continent. I've never seen you afraid of anyone. What's going on? Ding Wenru asked curiously. Yun Chuzhou said unhappily, it's that crazy Lan Luochen. I can't wait to never see him in my life. I've never seen such a crazy person like him. Chapter 5904. Don't lose the big because of the small. Ding Wenru was immediately filled with gossip. Crazy? Is he an enemy or a lover? Yun Chuzhou glared at her. You can't shut your mouth even if you eat. Don't mention that crazy person in front of me. The moment I think of him, the pastry in my hand will lose its taste. Ding Wenru immediately guessed a little and winked. I don't mind. The main thing is that the Northern Imperial is so jealous. He even went to trouble Nangong Shi for no reason. This time, he will definitely explode. Yun Chuzhou suddenly felt a headache coming on. That's right. The pretty boy and Lan Luochen would definitely fight each other the moment they met. She had to warn the pretty boy first. Thinking of this fellow was not in the mood to stroll around and eat. He dragged Ding Wenru and ran back to the residence of the 10 Directions Academy. The space was limited. The students each had a room. Di Baiming and Nan Gongshi were quite familiar with each other, so the two lived together. When Nan Gongshi saw Yun Chuzhou come in, before he could say anything, Yun Chuzhou said, "Nan Gongshi, Sister Ding is waiting for you in the room. She bought a lot of delicious food for you, go quickly." Nan Gongshi immediately felt happy. Although Ding Wenru's attitude toward him had improved after the incident at the Six Harmonies Waterside Pavilion, she was still cold and indifferent. He didn't expect that she would take the initiative to buy food for him this time. Nan Gongshi hurriedly ran to find Ding Wenru. Yun Chuzhou curled her lips and closed the door. A certain someone was dissatisfied with He Xinzhou abandoning him, so he didn't say anything. He Xinzhou didn't know that a certain someone was jealous of Ding Wenru. He walked up to Di Baiming and said, "I met that crazy Lan Luochen in the restaurant." When a certain someone heard that, his aura became sharp. Did he recognize? I don't think so, but he will recognize you sooner or later. I came to find you specifically to tell you not to get into a conflict with him. After all, the thing you are looking for is more important. There is no need to lose everything for nothing. Yun Chuzhou said. A certain someone suppressed the anger in his heart and nodded. Lan Luchen's existence made him like a fishbone in his throat. At the beginning, when he had the ability to kill Lan Luochen, he did not make a move because of Yun Chuzhou's feelings. After they became enemies, Lan Luochen had the 9 pavilions as his backing. He had never found a chance to kill him. At most, he had been severely injured. When they arrived at the Chongshao continent, Lan Luochen had become Yun Chuzhou's eldest cousin. He had considered Yun Chuzhou's situation in the Lan family, but he still could not make a move. Now, Lan Luochen had also arrived at the Divine Enlightenment continent. If he recognized little Jiu, it would be troublesome again. Thinking of how Lan Luochen and Yun Chuzhou described the mermaid brother as almost identical, a certain being felt troubled. For some reason, although the mermaid had only met Yun Chuzhou a few times, he was still afraid of it. Seeing that Di Baiming had agreed, Yun Chuzhou heaved a sigh of relief. She told him about what she had seen and heard on the street. Finally, she took out the Atlas of Heroes, and said angrily, "Look, these blind people are so stingy. They actually put Ding Wenru and I on the same piece of paper. They really go too far." Di Baiming's eyes twitched when he saw the huge, trash and ugly, on it. He had to admit that his little wife's focus was very different from others. In the evening, the people from the 10 Directions Academy went to the City Lord's mansion to attend the welcoming banquet with President Gu. The people from the Divine Enlightenment Academy also went to the banquet. Lord Murong was very enthusiastic. The banquet was also quite sumptuous and the scene was very lively. Chapter 5905, The Performance of the Little Grasshopper. Although President Gu was secretly competing with President Yu of the Divine Enlightenment Academy, he was still very polite on the surface. The vice-chancellors of the chancellor also exchanged greetings and toasted each other. For a time, the scene was very harmonious, as if the two parties were not rivals but old friends who had not seen each other for many years. However, as time passed, after several cups of wine, the direction of the atmosphere began to change. An old man sitting under President Yu of the Divine Enlightenment Academy said with a fake smile, "President Gu, a student gave me an interesting booklet. Have you read it?" President Gu slightly raised his eyebrows. "Oh. What booklet?" The old man immediately asked a maid to pass a booklet on the table to President Gu. President Gu opened it and saw that it was the introduction of the students of the 2 academies. He was a little puzzled. What was there to read? It was just some words of praise. The old man who spoke was the Chancellor of the Alchemy Division of the Divine Enlightenment Academy. Seeing that President Gu did not understand what he meant, he reminded him, "President Gu, why don't you turn to the last page of the 10 Directions Academy? President Gu turned to the last page of the booklet as he said. When he saw the trash and ugly and the introduction, his face immediately became a little ugly. Although he usually despised Yun Chuzhou and Ding Wenru, they were still students of the 10 Directions Academy. Now that they were so ugly, he was naturally unhappy. At the same time, the Chancellor of the Divine Enlightenment Academy asked the maid to pass a few more copies of the booklet to the other chancellors and vice-chancellors of the 10 Directions Academy. Chancellor Ren and the others' faces immediately turned ugly. On one hand, they felt that the Divine Enlightenment Academy had gone too far and was deliberately using it to annoy people. On the other hand, they blamed President Gu. They should have disqualified Yan Qingcheng and Ding Wenru before so that they would not embarrass themselves. At this time, Chancellor Si said with a little provocation, President Gu, to be honest, I thought that the person who compiled this book was talking nonsense. After all, the 100-year competition is a big event for both our academies. How could your 10-sided academy send 2 students with such low cultivation? But today, it was really like that. Sigh. I didn't expect the 10 Directions Academy to have declined to such an extent. Even such a useless student could participate in the 100-year competition. Hei Xinjiu wanted to diss Director C, but she was worried that Lan Luochen would see through her. She rolled her eyes. Fortunately, she had a little grasshop. Thus, Director Xiaofu's performance began. Director C, that's not true. The fact that Yan Qingcheng and Ding Wenru are participating in this 100-year competition shows that our 10 Directions Academy is getting more and more prosperous. Director Si curled his lips. Oh. I'd like to hear the details. Director Xiaofu smiled faintly, but with a hint of disdain. The results of the 100-year competition represent the strength of the 2 academies. We would rather send 2 of the weakest students to participate because we have enough confidence in the other students. Even if we lose 2 places, our 10 Directions Academy can still suppress your Divine Enlightenment Academy. In addition, as the saying goes, there is no discrimination in teaching. Our 10 Directions Academy is willing to give such a precious opportunity to ordinary students. This shows that our 10 Directions Academy treats all students equally. This is the root of teaching and educating people. And as a teacher, Chancellor Si, you use derogatory words to our academy's students. It is really hard to agree with you. Chapter 5906 added drama on its own. Director Xiaofu's words immediately made the scene quiet down. Director Si's face alternated between green and white. For a moment, he did not know what to say. The 1,000-year-old corpse turtle Emperor Bug felt that its performance was perfect. Although these words were taught to it by the little devil, its expression and tone were just right. This was also a skill. Therefore, this fellow began to add drama on its own. Director C, you just used insulting words to belittle the students of the 10 Directions Academy. Shouldn't you apologize? Director Si gritted his teeth and said, Vice Director Xiaofu, I saw the description of Yan Qingcheng and Ding Wenru from the Atlas of Heroish. I was just paraphrasing. It was not my original intention. The 1,000-year-old corpse turtle Emperor Bug did not know how to respond immediately. It could not help but regret that it should not have added to the drama. It could only ask Yun Chuzhou for help. Fortunately, Yun Chuzhou immediately told him how to deal with it. Therefore, everyone saw Vice-Chancellor Xiao smile sarcastically and then said lightly, so the lecturers of the Divine Enlightenment Academy only know how to read from the script. They do not have their own opinions at all. No wonder the Divine Enlightenment Academy is declining more and more. It turns out that the root is here. It is really a pity. The Chancellor almost spat out blood, but he didn't know how to refute. President Gu looked at Director Xiaofu with appreciation. He thought to himself that Director Xiaofu had made a lot of mistakes in the past. He didn't expect that he would stand up for the interests of the academy at the critical moment. It seemed that his nature wasn't bad. However, he was a little puzzled. He hadn't seen how eloquent Director Xiaofu was usually. Why was he so eloquent today? Could it be that he was performing beyond his usual standard? The other chancellors and students of the Academy of 10 Directions all looked at Director Xiaofu with approval. Although they did not like Yan Qingcheng and Ding Wenru, the Academy's honor was still important at this time. Xiao Lianxiao looked as if she was honored. She looked at Yun Chujiu proudly. Yun Chuyu thought to herself, if this idiot knew that Director Xiaofu had been taken over by the little grasshopper, would he still be so smug? Some people were happy while others were sad. The people from the 10 Directions Academy were jubilant, while the people from the Divine Enlightenment Academy had ugly expressions on their faces. They had provoked him first, but they were rendered speechless by others. It was really embarrassing. Seeing this scene, Guan Zijie recalled what had happened in the afternoon and immediately had the idea of showing his good impression in front of the higher-ups of the D. He stood up, bowed respectfully, and then said, "Teachers, originally, I didn't have the right to speak on this occasion. But since Yan Qingcheng and Ding Wenru of the 10 Directions Academy have been mentioned, I have a matter to ask you to decide." President Yu of the Divine Enlightenment Academy was worried that he had no way out. He immediately asked, "Oh? What's the matter?" "This afternoon, I was having lunch with a few of my classmates at the Banished Immortal restaurant when I met Yan Qingcheng and Ding Wenru. We didn't have any interactions at first, but I didn't expect them to provoke us for no reason and use foul language to humiliate us and the Divine Enlightenment Academy. I was so angry that I wanted to have a match with Ding Wenru on the spot. I didn't expect that she and Yan Qingcheng would run away when Jian Zhuyu interceded on their behalf. Therefore, I implore all the teachers to make a decision for me. There's no need to apologize. Just let me and Ding Wenru continue the match in the afternoon." Hei Xinjiu, who wished she could be invisible, heard Guan Zijie's words and was so angry that she gritted her teeth. This idiot really deserved to be taught a lesson. President Yu looked at President Gu and said, "President Gu, the competition hasn't started yet, and your academy's students are already provoking our students. Isn't that a little inappropriate?" Chapter 5907 followed the rules. President Gu laughed and said, "It's probably just a quarrel. How can it be considered a provocation? Moreover, Ding Wenru and Yan Qingcheng have always followed the rules and would never do anything out of line. I think there must be a misunderstanding. Let's forget it." The corners of the eyes of the people from the 10 Directions Academy twitched. Follow the rules. Did this word have anything to do with Yan Qingcheng and Ding Wenru? Could it be that you have some misunderstanding about this word? Whether it's a quarrel or a provocation, we are almost done eating anyway. Letting the two students spar can be considered as adding fuel to the fire. If you are afraid that they won't be careful, then don't use spiritual beasts, jade talismans, and the like. Just compete in body movement, President Yu said. Guan Zijie was at level 5 of the Divine Summoning, while Ding Wenru was only at level 8 of the Divine Summoning. Even if it was just a competition in movement skills, the result would be obvious. The Divine Summoning Academy had lost face before, so naturally, they would not let go of such a great opportunity. President Gu saw that President Yu had already said so much, so he could only nod and agree. He comforted himself. Anyway, Ding Wenru's cultivation was much lower than Guan Zijie's. It was normal to lose, and there was nothing to be embarrassed about. Unexpectedly, Nan Gongshi stood up and said to Guan Zijie, "Ding Wenru is only at the 8th layer of the Divine Revelation realm, and you and I are both at the 5th layer of the Divine Summoning realm. Do you dare to compete with me?" Guan Zijie's eyes flashed, and he sneered, "There's always someone to blame. I don't have any grudges with you. The person I'm looking for is Ding Wenru." Nan Gongshi wanted to say more, but Ding Wenru stood up and walked to the center of the hall. "I accept your challenge. Let's begin." Nan Gongshi was anxious and angry, but Ding Wenru was already on stage, so he couldn't say anything else. He planned in his heart that if the situation wasn't favorable for Ding Wenru, he would go on stage to save her. Ding Wenru looked calm on the surface, but she was secretly complaining in her heart. She didn't want to go on stage at all, okay. However, at the end of the day, she couldn't be intimidated by others, so she could only brace herself and go on stage. In any case, it did not matter even if he lost. Guan Zijie swaggered to the opposite side of Ding Wenru and said, "Ding Wenru, I will still say what I said in the afternoon. If you apologize to me in public now, I will forgive you, how about that?" Ding Wenru said coldly, "You were clearly the one who provoked me in the afternoon, but now you invert the truth. How shameful." Guan Zijie felt that victory was within his grasp and said arrogantly, "Your cultivation level is much lower than mine. I'll give you 3 moves to prevent others from saying that I'm bullying you." Ding Wenru sneered and did not say anything. She directly threw a punch at Guan Zijie's face. Guan Zijie nimbly jumped to the side and dodged Ding Wenru's punch. He had just dodged this punch when Ding Wenru's right leg kicked at his lower abdomen. Guan Zijie quickly jumped to dodge it. Unexpectedly, Ding Wenru seemed to have predicted that he would dodge in this direction and directly threw a punch towards him. Guan Zijie did not expect Ding Wenru's speed to be so fast. Although his reaction was still fast and he tried his best to jump to the side, he still swept the wind with his fist. Immediately, half of his face swelled up. Everyone could not help but exclaim in surprise. This Ding Wenru's cultivation was so low. They did not expect her to be so agile. In fact, this was all thanks to Yun Chuzhou. Ever since the two became friends, He Xinjiu had brainwashed Ding Wenru, "Sister Ding, the so-called 36 stratagems to escape is the best plan. The ability to escape is the most important, so you have to practice your body movement skills while you are training." Chapter 5908, Splits. Under the repeated brainwashing of Yun Chuzhou, Ding Wenru also attached great importance to her movement techniques. Although she was not as good as He Xinjiu, she was still much better than other people of the same cultivation level. Guan Zijie was both in pain and anger. He immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. "Ding Wenru, I wanted to save you some face, but I didn't expect you to be so shameless. Then don't blame me for being rude." After finishing his words, Guan Zijie began to fight back, fighting Ding Wenru. Although Ding Wenru's movement technique wasn't bad, she was only stronger than others of the same cultivation level. Guan Zijie's cultivation level was 6 levels higher than hers, and he was also a whole realm lower than her. Very quickly, he fell into a disadvantageous position. Ding Wenru was forced back by Guan Zijie, and she was in a dangerous situation. However, the principals of both sides had clearly said that it was only a competition of movement techniques, and spirit beasts or supporting techniques were not allowed. It wasn't good for her to use jade talismans and spirit tools either. She gritted her teeth. Qingqing had told her that if she couldn't win, she would run. Losing face was not as important as losing her life. Thus, she decided to admit defeat. At this moment, an unexpected change happened. Guan Zijie raised his leg to kick Ding Wenru's lower abdomen. Unexpectedly, he lost his balance and with a snap, a huge split. Although Ding Wenru was a little confused as to why such a good thing would happen, she recalled the principle that Yun Chuzhou had taught her not to take advantage of a bastard. She immediately kicked Guan Zijie. Guan Zijie, who was in the middle of splitting, did not have time to dodge at all. He was directly kicked by Ding Wenru, and he was sent flying while maintaining his splitting posture. Crack! Crack! As Guan Zijie maintained his splitting posture, coincidentally, the angle of his landing was not very good, so his right leg was directly broken. Everyone was shocked by this sudden change. Is there something wrong with Guan Zijie? If you want to compete, then let's compete. Why are you splitting? Are you trying to show off the flexibility of your body? Ding Wenru was really lucky. She actually won this match in a muddle-headed manner. Could it be that she also got lucky in the 6 Harmonies Waterside assessment? Ding Wenru was stunned for a moment. She bowed to President Gu and President Yu before returning to her seat. She was still a little confused. What happened just now? How did she win in such a muddle? President Ye's expression was a little ugly. He had wanted to regain some face, but he had never thought that he would embarrass himself again. Guan Ziji's cultivation level was so much higher than Ding Wenris of the 10 Directions Academy, but he actually lost. What an idiot! His bone was broken. Although it could be reattached, it would definitely affect the upcoming competition. President Yu wanted to change the person. However, according to the rules of the 2 academies, once the name list was confirmed, no matter what happened, the person could not be changed. Therefore, one could imagine the depression in his heart. Some people were happy while others were sad. President Gu, who was beside him, was elated. Regardless of how Ding Wenru performed in the competition, she had done well for the 10 Directions Academy tonight. President Gu smiled at President Yu and said, "President Yu, I thought Ding Wenru would lose. After all, her cultivation is much lower. I didn't expect her to win by luck. Sorry for making a fool of myself." President Yu was furious. Who made a fool of himself? This old man was obviously teasing him. He squeezed out a smile and said, "Guan Zijie was indeed careless. That's why he lost the competition. This has also rung a warning bell for the students. I believe that they will learn a lesson during the competition and won't make the same mistake again." Chapter 5909 began. President Gu knew when to stop. He did not continue to use words to provoke her. He just laughed and let this matter pass. The crowd chatted for a moment without embarrassment and then dispersed. In order to avoid Lan Luochen, when Yun Chuzhou heard that it was over, she hurriedly dragged Ding Wenru and ran away. On the way, Ding Wenru said in puzzlement, "Qingcheng, why do you think that Guan Zijie suddenly made a mistake?" "I guess he got his comeuppance," Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. She naturally wouldn't tell Ding Wenru that it was Xiao Hanio's curse. Ding Wenru couldn't think of any other reason, so she could only accept this explanation. Back at her residence, He Xinjiu was reading the new script she bought today with great interest when she heard a lot of noise outside. She was puzzled. What happened? Ding Wenru had always liked to watch a show, so she immediately went out to investigate. After a while, Ding Wenru walked in with a gossipy face. "Qingcheng, Bai Yuechen was beaten up by someone. The other party obviously did it on purpose. The wound was on his face, and Bai Yuechen's face was beaten into a pig's head." "Oh right, guess who beat him up?" Yun Chuzhou thought for a moment and guessed correctly. Could it be that Bai Yuechen went to provoke Lan Luochen and was beaten up? Ding Wenru was dumbfounded. "How do you know?" Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. "Isn't that simple?" Bai Yuechen saw the wild and promising seed that he looked down on, so he naturally wanted to get back at him. Who would have thought that Lan Luchen's cultivation was much stronger than his? He was naturally looking for a beating. What a pig's head! Ding Wenru nodded. "You guessed right." After the banquet ended, Bai Yuechen stopped Lan Luochen from provoking him, but he was beaten into a pig's head. TSK, the heroic records, already said that Lan Luochen was now at the 7th level of the Divine Summoning Realm, while Bai Yuechen was only at the 4th level of the Divine Summoning Realm. Where did he get the confidence to provoke Lan Luochen? I've heard that Bai Yuechen's cultivation was originally unable to enter the top 50. It was because of Nangong Shi that he obtained the qualifications to participate in the grand competition. I've also heard that the reason why his cultivation soared so quickly was because their Bai family had found many medicinal pills to increase his cultivation. Otherwise, he would only be at the 2nd level of the Divine Summoning Realm at most. Yun Chuzhou just smiled and did not say anything. She thought that a fool like Bai Yuechen would sooner or later be tortured by Lan Luochen. Perhaps the Bai family would also end up in Lan Luchen's hands. Ding Wenru sighed. Sigh. Qing. We won't lose our lives in there, right? Yun Chuzhou laughed evilly and said, "What are you afraid of? Don't you still have Nangong Shi protecting you?" "Oh my, didn't you see that when you were competing with Guan Zijie, Nangong Shi wanted to run up and help you?" Ding Wenru's face immediately turned red. What nonsense are you talking about? We are just ordinary friends. It's not what you said at all. Sister Ding, I didn't say anything. You just confessed without beating yourself up, He Xinjiu said with a wink. Ding Wenru's face turned even redder. She simply ignored her. One day later, it was the day of the 100-year grand competition. The 100-year grand competition was divided into 2 rounds. The first round was the trial of the ruins of Miracle. The 100 people who participated in the grand competition would enter the ruins of Miracle. This was both a competition and an opportunity. Every time, a portion of the students would get a rare opportunity. Therefore, although the ruins of Miracle was very dangerous, the students from the 2 academies would still fight for the qualification to participate in the grand competition. Chapter 59:10 Entering the ruins of Miracle. Dazzling beads appeared randomly in the ruins of Miracle. These beads had the effect of calming the mind and dispelling inner demons. They were called illusion-colored beads. The student's task was to obtain these illusion-colored beads. The final result was also calculated by the number of illusion-colored beads. The students' results added together were the results of the corresponding academy. Together with the points of the second round, the final winner was calculated. In addition, only the top 50 of the ruins of Miracle were qualified to participate in the second round of the competition. In a sense, the first round of the trial of the ruins of Miracle set the tone of the entire competition. Because the more people who entered the top 50, the greater the chance of winning in the second round of the competition. As for the second round of the competition, it had to draw 3 kinds from the spiritual power: artifact refining, pill refining, array formation, beast taming, and talisman making. This was also to prevent people from cheating in the first round of the competition. After all, if they knew the content of the assessment, the academy could have given priority to the top 50 students who had the corresponding talent in the first round. He Xinjiu had thought that the ruins of Miracle would be somewhere outside the city. She did not expect that they would be brought to the backyard of the governor's mansion. Everyone looked at the dilapidated well in front of them and could not help but look at each other. Don't tell them that the so-called ruins of Miracle was in this well. Just as everyone was puzzled, they saw City Lord Murong put up an incense table and knelt on the ground. President Gu and President Yu also knelt on the ground. When the others saw it, they also quickly knelt on the ground. He Xinjiu pursed her lips and also knelt on the ground. She complained in her heart, "What kind of trick is this?" City Lord Murong chanted a long paragraph of obscure words, and then a scene that made everyone dumbfounded appeared. A red carp jumped out from the dilapidated well. The scales on the red carp's body were very eye-catching under the sunlight, but it did not have eyes. When everyone focused their eyes and looked again, they realized that the carp was not a real carp, but was carved out of some kind of material. At this time, President Gu and President Yu each took out a bead, and the bead was automatically embedded into the red carp's eye socket. In an instant, the red carp emitted a red light that shot up to the sky. The well also became a teleportation barrier. He Xinjiu couldn't help but click her tongue in wonder. The design of this thing was really interesting. However, why didn't it design a dragon or a phoenix? Why did it make a? The image of grilled fish, steamed fish, braised fish, sour soup fish immediately appeared in this guy's mind. It was only when Ding Wenru tugged on her sleeve that he wiped the saliva from his mouth and looked around. According to the usual rules, 5 people would enter the barrier in groups and everyone would form a team. In fact, most of the people had already discussed this beforehand, so they had basically formed a team. He Xinjiu undoubtedly formed a team with Ding Wenru, Di Baiming, and Nan Gongshi, but there was still one person missing. There were a few students who had yet to form a team, and they were somewhat hesitant. Although Bei Yu and Nan Gongshi were both quite strong, with Yan Qingcheng and Ding Wenru dragging them down, their strength would definitely be greatly reduced. It was better not to join. What everyone didn't expect was that Jiang Shuangli actually walked over. "How about I join you guys?" Everyone's faces were filled with shock. Previously, Xiao Yanxiao had invited Jiang Shuangli to join their group, but he had rejected her. They didn't expect him to take the initiative to join Yan Qingcheng's group. Chapter 59:11, Skeleton Tiger. Yun Chuzhou smiled with her eyes curved. Welcome, welcome. One more person to protect me and Sister Ding. I can't ask for more. In the future, all the hard work will belong to you. Jiang Shuangli's expression was slightly stiff, but he didn't say anything. He only nodded at Di Baiming and the other two, officially joining. Xiao Yanxiao snorted coldly. Jiang Shuangli, you will regret it. She had planned very well. Her group had Jian Zhuyu, Ji Lingfeng, Bai Yuechen, and Jiang Shuangli. It could be said to be a perfect combination, but she did not expect Jiang Shuangli to be tactless and actually reject her. What was even more infuriating was that he turned around and joined Yan Qingcheng's group. He was simply crazy. Jiang Shuangli did not say anything. The bloodthirsty Insect Valley incident had a great impact on him, and he suddenly understood many things. Instead of choosing Xiao Yanxiao, who had abandoned her teammates at the crucial moment, he would rather be in a group with Yan Qingcheng and the others. Moreover, he felt that Yan Qingcheng wasn't as useless as she appeared. It was impossible for a person to be so lucky every time, unless he had extraordinary strength. Moreover, Beiyu wasn't a fool. Yan Qingcheng must have something extraordinary to be able to catch his eye. After everyone formed a team, they began to enter the teleportation barrier. Hei Xinjiu was a little worried. She did not know if this barrier would cause any trouble. If she was blocked outside, she would be in trouble. Fortunately, there was nothing unusual. This fellow successfully entered the ruins of Miracle. Each team was teleported to a different location. Therefore, when the 5 of them regained their sight, there was no one else around them. When the 5 of them saw the situation before them, they could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. No wonder this place was called the Ruins of Miracles. It was indeed a ruin. The ground was full of collapsed debris, and there were cracks on the ground. It was so deep that one could not see the bottom, and it made one's heart tremble. It seems that the Earth Dragon flipped over here, which caused such a tragic outcome, Nangong sure guessed. Jiang Shuangli nodded. You're right. Only the Earth Dragon turned over would cause these cracks in the ground. These cracks are so deep that you can't see the bottom. There will be some demon beasts that are unique to this place. Everyone, be careful. Ding Wenru looked around and said curiously, there are only ruins here. What do those demon beasts eat? According to the records, not all of the ruins of God's Miracle are like this. There are also water sources in the forest, so there are naturally low-level demon beasts. Therefore, they should not be worried about food, Jiang Shuangli explained. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes and said, well, since the demon beasts here are very strange, is the meat also very delicious? Jiang Shuangli's face stiffened for a moment and then said, for the sake of safety, no one dares to try to eat the demonic beasts here. After all, the appearance of those demonic beasts is quite different from what we've seen before. At this moment, Ding Wenru pointed to the distance and said in panic, quick, look. It's coming out. Yun Chuzhou looked in the direction of Ding Wenru's finger and saw an extremely strange demonic beast crawling out of an underground crack in the distance. That demonic beast looked similar to a demonic tiger, but half of its body was a skeleton. It was as strange as it could be. According to the records, this should be a moon seal level 6 skeleton tiger. It has a fire spirit root and is very brutal, Jiang Shuangli said. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes. Do you guys think that half of its body is a skeleton? Could it be that it accidentally burned itself to such a state? Everyone was speechless. Shouldn't you focus on something else? Didn't you see that the skeleton tiger was already charging over? Chapter 59:12 was not beautiful at all. Although everyone was wary of the skeleton tiger, they were not too worried. Bei Yu was at level 7 of the Divine Summoning, Jiang Shuangli was at level 6, and Nangong Shi was at level 5 of the Divine Summoning. Even if Yun Chujiu and Ding Wenru were useless, they were more than enough to deal with the skeleton tiger. At this moment, the skeleton tiger had already rushed in front of everyone. However, it did not attack. Instead, it let out a threatening growl, as if it was choosing its target and timing. Hei Xinjia's eyes widened as she observed the skeleton tiger. In order to take a closer look, this fellow simply laid on the ground and looked at the skeleton tiger's abdomen. TSK, it was really magical. There was an opaque barrier between the skeleton frame and the edges of the flesh and blood, but nothing could be seen. When the skeleton tiger saw Hei Xinjia's actions, it was almost angered to the point of being dumbfounded. It had seen many batches of humans, but this was the first time it had seen such a strange one. She did not take such a powerful demonic beast seriously at all. She was really courting death. The skeleton tiger immediately decided on its first target and pounced towards Hei Xinjiu, who was lying on the ground. However, just as it made its move, an ice dragon pounced towards it and bit its ear. Water countered fire, ice countered fire. The skeleton tiger immediately screamed in pain and did not dare to pounce forward anymore. In fact, Di Baiming could have killed the skeleton tiger in one move, but firstly, he was afraid of exposing his strength, and secondly, Hei Xinjiu was shouting at the side, "I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll take care of it." Ding Wenru was speechless when she saw Hei Xinjiu, who was eager to give it a try. "Qingcheng, can you be more careful? It was fine if you were distracted before, but now you are rushing to your death. Are you still asleep? That is a level 6 demonic beast of the moon seal. Is it going to take care of you or you?" At this moment, Hei Xinjiu had already walked to Di Baiming's side. She looked at the skeleton tiger with a smug look and said, "Hey, little kitten, how about we have a one-on-one fight?" The skeleton tiger howled angrily. How was it like a cat? It was a tiger. Moreover, this little weakling still wanted to fight it alone. She was most likely an idiot, right? It could easily kill a little weakling like her. Where did this little weakling get her confidence from? Could it be because she was ugly? It was not that its words were unpleasant. Humans looked really strange. They were actually covered in meat from head to toe. There was no beauty in them at all. Yun Chujiu naturally did not know what the skeleton tiger was thinking. She continued with a smile, "WH. What a joke, it did not dare. What was there to be afraid of? It was just afraid of that ugly male. Little kitten, since you dare, how about we have a competition? If you win, I'm willing to be eaten by you. If I win, you can establish a temporary contract with me, how about that?" Hei Xinjiu laughed like a wolf with a big tail. The skeleton tiger looked at Yun Chujiu with disdain, thinking, "Do you think it's a fool? Even if it won, the ugly human male would not let it eat the uglier human female." Yun Chujiu was so smart. She immediately saw its concern and said with a smile, "Don't worry, what I said is true. If I lie, let the heavenly lightning strike me to death. The kind that will turn me into charcoal." Chapter 59:13 slipped away. Yun Chujiu thought that the skeleton tiger would definitely agree with her words. After all, she had used the same method to trick countless demonic beasts. Who would have thought that the skeleton tiger would snort in disdain, turn around, and jump into the nearest crack in the ground, disappearing without a trace? Yun Chujiu, what exactly went wrong? Why did the skeleton tiger run away? This guy looked at Ding Wenru and the others with a blank face. "Tell me, why did it run? Am I so awesome now? I just casually said a few words and scared it away." Ding Wenru and the others were also dumbfounded. The skeleton tiger was still aggressive before, why did it suddenly run away? Di Baiming said indifferently, "Maybe it didn't believe your words and thought that it wouldn't benefit from winning or losing, so it ran away." Hei Xinjiu frowned. It shouldn't be. She didn't say anything either. What the hell? She had planned to contract the skeleton tiger so that she could have a guide. It would be helpful for them to complete the mission or find what debining needed. But the skeleton tiger unexpectedly ran away. Damn it, that skeleton tiger really did not know what was good for it. It would be best if it was struck to death by heavenly lightning. Just as Yun Chujo had this thought, a purple heavenly lightning descended from the sky with a boom. It struck the crack where the skeleton tiger had disappeared earlier. Ding Wenru and the rest were shocked. They looked at Yun Chujo with a meaningful gaze. It seemed that this fellow had lied earlier. Otherwise, why would the heavenly lightning descend? Hei Shinjo touched her nose. She could not explain that the heavenly lightning was to strike the skeleton tiger. Everyone waited for a while, but the skeleton tiger did not appear again. They could only head south. The reason why they chose the south was because according to Jiang Shuangli, there was a large forest to the south of the ruins of God's miracle. The place where the illusion pearls appeared most frequently was that dense forest. After Yun Chujo and the others left, the skeleton tiger crawled out from the crack in the ground. It was a miserable sight. The golden fur on its body was chopped into curly fur, and even half of its bones were charred black. The skeleton tiger was filled with hatred and fear. The reason why it ran away earlier was because it was certain that Yun Chujo was lying, because there had never been any heavenly lightning in the ruins of Miracle. The oath she made was useless. It was also worried that it would be killed by debining, so it took the opportunity to escape. However, it was actually struck by the heavenly lightning just now. Who could tell it why? Could it be caused by that ugly female human? Yes, it must be so. Otherwise, why would she say those words? The huge eyeballs of the skeleton tiger rolled around. No, it had to spread the news and kill that ugly female human. As long as she died, the ruins of Miracle would no longer have such a terrifying existence like heavenly thunder. It could also take revenge. Thinking of this, the skeleton tiger once again burrowed into the crevice. What Yun Chujo and the others did not know was that these crevices were connected in the deepest part of the ground. There were countless skeleton demon beasts living in them. However, they all had their own boundaries. Usually, they would not interfere with each other. However, if there was an urgent matter, there wouldn't be so many taboos. These demon beasts in the ruin of Miracles all spoke the same beast language. The news spread very quickly, and soon, all the skeleton demon beasts in this area knew about this news. They gave up on their targets and gathered in the direction where Yun Chujo was. Chapter 59-14 Wuxia Demon. The students in this area were somewhat dumbfounded, because they were shocked to discover that many demon beasts flashed past them, as if they hadn't seen them. The ground also began to tremble, and the faint roars of beasts could be heard. Everyone was shocked and afraid. Could it be that there was a demon beast riot in the ruins of Miracles? They had never heard of a demon beast riot here. However, based on the principle of seeking advantages and avoiding disadvantages, they naturally would not follow the demonic beasts to check it out foolishly. They were more than happy to capture the fantasy pearl easily. Hei Shinjo and the other three were already out of luck. Before they walked out of the ruins of the city, they discovered in horror that countless skeleton demonic beasts had crawled out of the cracks in the ground around them. Their faces were ferocious and terrifying. Ding Wenru was so scared that her legs turned to jelly. She grabbed Yun Chujia's arm and asked, "Qingcheng, what? What's going on? Why are we surrounded by demon beasts?" Hei Shinjo was also dumbfounded. Could it be Goei Bakeo's doing? Goei Butsao immediately felt wronged. It was not that indebted. It had nothing to do with it, alright? Di Baiming's calm face also revealed a serious look. Although he had concealed his strength, there were so many high-level demonic beasts. He was not confident that he could bring Yun Chujo back safely. Jiang Shuangli's face was pale. He said in a trembling voice, "Why are there so many demonic beasts? This is not normal." Hey Xinjia's sharp eyes spotted the skeleton tiger among the demonic beasts. The giant skeleton tiger's eyes were filled with pride and arrogance. She suddenly thought of something. Could it be that the gathering of the demonic beasts was related to it? She rolled her eyes and said to Ding Wenru in a low voice, "Sister Ding, I didn't expect that the skeleton tiger would be so resourceful. I told it to attract more demonic beasts to die, but it actually managed to trick so many demonic beasts. As expected of the demonic beast I chose." Ding Wenru didn't understand what Yun Chujio was talking about, but the tacit understanding she had made her subconsciously agree, yes, it does have a way. Di Baiming immediately understood Yun Chujio's intention and cooperated. "You promised it benefits, so it will naturally do as you said. It's a good time to use these demonic beasts as a blood sacrifice." As Di Baiming spoke, his body emitted a terrifying pressure. Although this pressure did not target Ding Wenru and the other two, it still made their faces pale and made them unable to stand. When they saw the pressure that Di Baiming emitted, they immediately cast their suspicious and angry gazes towards the skeleton tiger. The skeleton tiger was aggrieved and angry. It roared angrily, "That human female is lying. I don't know her at all, and I want work for her. Let's attack together and kill them." Those demon beasts were skeptical. At this time, Yun Chujio waved at the skeleton tiger and said, "Little kitten, come here quickly. Otherwise, you will be hurt by accident later. What you said makes sense. The word king in your head is the proof of your noble bloodline. Only you are worthy to be the king of the beast in the ruin of miracles. Come here quickly so that I can poison them all to death." When the skeleton tiger saw the angry eyes of the demon beasts around it, it was about to cry. Now, it did not matter whether what the stinky girl said was true or not. Just because of the word king in its head, the other demon beasts could not tolerate it anymore. Was this little girl a demon? How terrifying! Chapter 59-15 One man returns 10,000 beasts. Please continue reading on X0VL. No matter how the skeleton tiger thought about it, there was no way it could survive. Regardless of whether the demonic beasts ate these humans or not, it would be torn to pieces by the other demonic beasts. The skeleton tiger really did not understand. It had such a meticulous plan, why did it end up losing its own life? What could it do to save its own life? At this moment, Yun Chujio said again, "Little kitten, what are you still standing there for? You forgot that the crack in the ground has been poisoned. It can only be cured by drinking a large amount of water. Be careful that you don't die from the poison." Almost instantly, a few demonic beasts rushed into the distance. The other demonic beasts also reacted and rushed in the same direction. The reason was very simple. Nothing was more important than their lives. It was better to believe it than not to believe it. If they were really poisoned, wouldn't their lives be over? In any case, it was just a large amount of water and there was no harm in it. After saving their lives, it was not too late to seek revenge on this stinky girl. The face of the skeleton tiger was dumbstruck. Even in its dreams, it had never thought that things would end up like this. Were those demonic beasts all fools? That wretched girl poisoned them just like that? She had only just arrived here, how could she have the time and opportunity to poison them? However, it did not say anything. Even if it did, no beast would believe it. It might even bite it to death. After all, it was now an ambitious traitor who wanted to be king. Just as the skeleton tiger was shocked, Yun Chujio said with a faint smile, "Little kitten, do you want to live? If you want to live, then quickly establish a temporary contract with me. Otherwise, when those demonic beasts come back, you'll be dead." When the skeleton tiger saw Yun Chujio's smiling face, it wished it could go up and bite her to death. It was all her fault. If it wasn't for her, would it become the target of everyone? Would it end up in such a miserable ending? But, what could it do? There was such a terrifying existence beside that stinky girl, and it couldn't defeat it. It thought again. This stinky girl had casually sent those idiots away with just a few words. Perhaps there really was a way to save it. It gritted its teeth and put aside its moral integrity and dignity for now. It was more important to save its little life first. Therefore, the skeleton tiger reluctantly established a spiritual connection with Yun Chujio and was temporarily contracted by Yun Chujio. After Yun Chujio kept the skeleton tiger, she did not say anything. Instead, she said to Ding Wenru and the others, "Let's leave this place first. Otherwise, it will be bad if those demonic beasts that went to drink water and detoxify the poison come back." Ding Wenru and the other two finally recovered from their shock. They had heard before that one person could retreat 10,000 soldiers. They thought that it was an exaggeration. Today, they had finally witnessed it. This was a one-man retreat of 10,000 beasts. Yan Qingsheng said a few words and managed to trick so many demonic beasts into running away. This was too unbelievable. Also, the pressure that Bei Yu had just released was too terrifying. Before they had time to think further, the five of them immediately rushed towards the direction of the dense forest. As for the skeleton tiger, it had tragically become He Xinjia's mount. As the skeleton tiger ran, it wept in the wind. Was there anyone in the world who was more miserable than it? What did it do wrong to deserve such torture? Finally, everyone entered the dense forest and heaved a sigh of relief. The dense forest was different from the open area. It was not easy for those demonic beasts to surround and attack them. Moreover, they had raised their vigilance and would not give them the chance to surround and attack. Chapter 59:16 was added. Please continue reading on X0VL. At this time, Yun Chujio finally had the leisure to deal with the skeleton tiger. She glanced at the skeleton tiger. "Tell me, what exactly happened?" The skeleton tiger wanted to tell the truth, but it immediately felt a sharp pain in its spiritual sense. It could only tell the whole story with tears in its eyes. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. The underground crevices were all connected to each other. Was it opened by these demonic beasts later, or were they connected to each other in the first place? If they were connected to each other in the first place, then it wouldn't be a crack, but the original secret passage. After the city was overthrown, these secret passages were revealed, forming the so-called crack. The secret passage was either used to protect one's life, or to hide treasures. Could the thing the pretty boy was looking for be in the secret passage? Thinking of this, Yun Chujio used her spiritual sense to ask, "Is there an underground palace down there?" The eyes of the skeleton tiger flickered. Just as it was about to lie, it heard Yun Chujio say sinisterly, "If you don't want to be hunted by the demon beasts in the future, just tell me the truth. Otherwise, even if I let you go in the future, you won't be able to live." The skeleton tiger could only say sullenly, "Since you guessed it, I won't hide it from you. There is indeed an underground palace down there, but it is not under this city, but under the desert. Don't blame me for not reminding you. The demon beasts in the desert are all very abnormal, especially when there are many corpse soldiers around the underground palace. It's so scary. If you don't want to die, don't go near it. Anyway, you came here to look for the illusionary color bead. There's no illusionary color bead there, so there's no need to send yourself to your death." Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes and did not say anything. If the thing the pretty boy was looking for was in the underground palace, she would go and explore it even if it was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire. Moreover, corpse soldiers. She had the corpse stabilizing pearl, so what was there to be afraid of? The skeleton tiger asked weakly, "Do you have a way to prevent me from being chased by those demon beasts?" Yun Chujio looked at it with a smile and said, "That's easy to do. There will be a place for the beasts to stay if there are no beasts left here. You can just move to another area and live there. However, the word king in your forehead is a little eye-catching. In order to prevent future trouble, I can help you change the word to another word. Don't worry, I'll add a stroke and change it to the word jade. How about that?" Skeleton tiger thought for a moment. Although it was temporarily safe in other areas, it could not guarantee that the news in this area would spread over there. It was better to change the word king to the word jade, so it nodded and agreed. Therefore, Hei Shinjo fed Skeleton Tiger a painkiller pill and took out a dagger to cut its forehead. The Skeleton Tiger was puzzled. Why did it feel that she did not carve a dot? However, it did not think of anything else. The main reason was that the word, king, was just a word of jade and the main character. It could not write anything else. However, why did it feel that the expressions of those ugly humans were not quite right? The Skeleton Tiger was suspicious, but it did not have a mirror, so it could only bury this question in its heart. At this time, Ding Wenru pointed to the distance and said, "Look. That's the illusion pearl, right?" Everyone looked in the direction Ding Wenru pointed and saw a dazzling pearl floating in the distance. The light around its body formed a pair of small wings that flew about 10 feet away from the ground. It was forbidden to fly in the ruins of Miracle, so this illusion pearl could only fly up to this height. Nangong Shi tiptoed and immediately grabbed the illusion pearl. He didn't expect the illusion pearl to be so agile. It avoided Nangong Shi's hand and flew into the distance. Chapter 59:16, The words on the forehead of the Skeleton Tiger. Please continue reading on X0VL. Seeing this, Jiang Shuangli and Ding Wenru quickly went forward to help. Yun Chuzhou took this opportunity to tell Di Baiming about the Skeleton Tiger's words and her own guess. "Prince Charming, is the thing you are looking for in the underground palace? The location I sensed is indeed in the desert. I will help you get enough fantasy beads first, then I will go to the desert to check," Di Baiming said. Yun Chuzhou immediately caught some information from his words. "You mean, you will go alone?" Di Baiming nodded. "After I get the things, I will use the opportunity to disappear after I teleport out. Otherwise, people will suspect you in the future, so don't go with me." Yun Chuzhou immediately pouted. "Sooner or later, my identity will be exposed. At that time, your identity will not be hidden. This is simply an excuse. In the end, aren't you afraid that it'll drag you down?" "Sigh, who asked me to be such a waste? Even my fiancé despises me. What's the point of me living? I might as well be stuffed to death." Although Di Baiming knew that this fellow was acting shamelessly, he still had to explain. "I'm not afraid of you dragging me down. I'm afraid that you'll be in danger. Have you forgotten? I have the corpse stabilizing pearl. Why would I be afraid of those corpse soldiers? It's just a pity that the little grasshopper didn't come in together, otherwise, those corpse soldiers wouldn't be enough to fill the gaps between the little grasshopper's teeth." Speaking up to this point, Yun Chujia's heart moved. Although the little grasshopper didn't come in, she could still bring out the corpse soldiers' corpses and feed them to the little grasshopper. A certain someone had always been unable to dissuade Hei Shinjo, so in the end, he could only agree with her. After finding enough fantasy beads, the two of them left the team and headed towards the desert. At this time, Nangong Shi and the other two had already successfully caught the fantasy bead. Nangong Shi used his spiritual power to restrain the fantasy bead and held it in his hand to look at it carefully. He didn't see anything special about it. Other than the colorful colors, it wasn't much different from a pearl that could calm one's mind. Nangong Shi thought for a moment and passed the pearl to Yun Chuzhou. "Keep it with you for now. When we're about to leave, well, split it equally." Yun Chuzhou didn't stand on ceremony and directly put the illusion pearl into her storage ring. For the next 2 days, the 5 of them went into the forest to catch the illusion pearl. In order to enter the desert earlier, Di Baiming no longer hid his strength and easily caught a few illusion pearls. When they were surrounded by the demonic beasts, the terrifying pressure released by Di Baiming had already made Nangong Shi and the other two feel that something was wrong, so they were not surprised. However, they secretly guessed that this bias cultivation did not seem to be weaker than the other chancellors. Why did he hide his strength and enter the academy? However, they were only guessing in their hearts. No one dared to ask, and no one dared to say anything. On this day, everyone passed by a stream in the forest. Because of Jiang Shuangli's warning, no one dared to drink the water here even though the water was very clear. The skeleton tiger thought of the word on its forehead and walked to the side of the stream curiously. It wanted to see if the word on its forehead was master or jade. Nangong Shi and the others looked at the skeleton tiger sympathetically and silently retreated a little. The skeleton tiger quickly let out a miserable cry because it saw the word on its forehead. It wasn't the word master, nor was it the word jade. Instead, it was fucking ugly. The skeleton tiger was so angry that it fainted on the spot. It was too fucking mean. It couldn't bully a beast like this. How could it see a beast like this in the future? It didn't want to live anymore. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.